all kinds of things that can help your kids. And this, very much on the point of how you protect them is how you teach them to stand up for themselves, because you're not there to protect them all the time. So you can't protect them, meaning you need to give them the tools. My kids are little, but if you've got older kids, younger kids, it's all just age appropriate how old they are to try to protect them. How do you help someone see that they're being abused? I get this a lot, and it's tough. That is very, very tough. You can tell them that the behavior is wrong, that you're witnessing the behavior. If you start to slam somebody's partner, it actually just isolates them further. So I would never do that. I would never say like, hey, your boyfriend's abusive, he's a piece of shit. What I would say is, wow, that felt abusive. That seems not nice. Wow, that must have made you feel bad. Stuff like that. Now, if they say, I know, and you start to see like they get it, then you're wondering why the hell are they staying? There's so many different reasons. So it becomes, what support do you need? What resources do you need? How can I help you? And if they're still staying, it really just becomes like you don't deserve this. Don't say you should leave. You don't deserve this. You're better than this. But don't say what they should do. You're making them feel weak and bad for not being able to do that. But you want to help build up their inner strength. Can there be a mutual discard? Yeah, there absolutely can. I would say that. It doesn't happen too often, but ultimately, like, they're done with you because they're not getting supply from you anymore, and you're kind of over the whole thing. Yeah. Even if you're trauma bonded or not, you could still be trauma bonded and be able to walk away. But regardless, yes, there can be a mutual discard. I would say that's the most ideal situation. Rare, but ideal. After back and forth for 10 years, I now have the tools to enforce my boundaries. I love that. I love that. Disconnecting with the toxic dad is really, really hard because it's family. It feels harder somehow, right? How do you say strong and avoid the hoover? That's really hard as well. Man, oh man. You want to avoid the hoover, right? Rather than like be strong enough to overcome the hoover. For me, I was like, how do I avoid this? Of course, there's, when you're in the trauma bond, avoiding it is hard. It feels like dying, but, you have to tell yourself what are you getting out of this, and what you're getting out of it is staying. So that's not good, right? What you're getting out of it is feeling the love, because the hoover feels so great, right? Oh, look, he does love me. She does want me. This is so great. I knew, there's the nice person, because they go back and forth with nice and horrible. Oh, there's the nice person. So you're like, I love it. I want this. But you have to remind yourself, this is the addiction talking. Like, this isn't love, it's a trauma bond. When we say like, I know it's a trauma bond, but I love them. Stop that part. Just the trauma bond. You don't love them. Trauma bond is not love. It's an addiction. It feels like love. You think it's love. You're convinced it's love. It's not love. That's not what love feels like. Love does not hurt. Love does not hurt. That's just it. So it's really a matter of staying away. Absolutely staying away as much as you can, because every conversation with them is an opportunity for them to get you back in, to hoover you, or to like scream at you, which somehow hoovers you, they're magic, how they do that. I mean, they're not literally magic. They're really not creative at all. But my ex posted his current girlfriend recently and even put how he felt about her, but she's not even on his page. That's weird. That's for you, but that makes you wonder if it's legit. It's like, it isn't. It's never legit. They don't feel abusers even. I'm not talking about narcissists all the time. Abusers. The words are not interchangeable. I do use them interchangeably sometimes, probably incorrectly. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of us think that our partners are narcissists when they are abusers. There are so many similarities, but it doesn't matter. Is he a narcissist? Not. He's an asshole. They treat you badly. That's all you need to know. That's all that matters. I still feel my husband still is one, but he apologized and it seems like he changed. I mean, it's possible. I doubt it, but it's possible. They can they can appear to change for short periods of time, but not necessarily long periods of time. And again, what does change really look like? Like real, true accountability for that, not just like Okay, I'll yell at you less. I'll drink less. Things aren't as bad as they used to, so that's what change looks like. We think of that, we give that way too much credit. Mine is threatening not to pay the alimony for the next month because I made TikToks about him. Well, if you don't have a social media order, he can piss right off, I suppose. But I actually might seem like I'm completely being a hypocrite here, but you should not be making social media posts if you can avoid it. That's not ideal, but he can't. Like, that's not how that works, sir. He can't not pay because of that, but he can not pay, and then you have to file a motion, and that's pain in the ass, right? Destiny, you said get full custody and don't let him ruin your child. Damn right. It's very difficult, obviously, but yeah, completely. That's what you want to do. How do you heal is a great one. It's how do you heal? Time is part of it, but people say like, oh, time heals all wounds. Not really. Time can just let trauma fester. So you actually really would want to be working hard at healing. And what that looks like is learning about you. I'm not necessarily talking about breaking the trauma bond, but the healing aspect of it. You want to focus on boundaries, your unmet needs, your childhood trauma that you think you don't have. Now, some of us are aware we have it, but a lot of us actually aren't. We think, well, I had a decent childhood. I didn't have trauma, but you probably did. And so explore that in coaching, explore that in licensed mental health therapy. You should have a look at what you can do to become stronger and have a stronger sense of self. What do you like? Sushi, Indian food, like what do you like? Music, what do you like? What makes you happy? What makes you feel loved? What are the things that you value? And then hold those things more dearly than you ever have. Be strong. And if you can unpack a lot of the childhood trauma and unpack what led you here, not from a place of judgment, but ask yourself, like, why am I the kind of person that lets some asshole walk all over me? Don't judge yourself. Just find out the answer. Because we do need to ask ourselves tough questions. It's not nice when, creators, I mean, even me, but people say that online and it sounds so victim shamey, but it's not like you picked him. It's just like, what led you here? What makes you be okay with these men? They picked you. That's my belief, but still they picked you. Why'd you stay? So I had to ask myself those tough questions too and learn why I stayed. So Nate just said, Ascendant Samurai, healing my inner child literally saved my life. I agree. That I completely agree. And we have very different backgrounds, Nate and I, but that, like, you need to look at that there's childhood wounds in you that make you make decisions. And for me, I know that as it turns out, I felt very neglected as a child. And I wasn't neglected. Like, I was fed, I had clothes, I had a nice house, all that stuff, but I was emotionally neglected, or that's my perception of my childhood. And therefore, being neglected as an adult made sense to me. It's not like I thought, oh, this feels great, but it felt comfortable, felt normal. And so when you find yourself in a relationship like that, where you just feel unseen, unheard, even if it's just toxic, if you're in that kind of relationship, you are tolerating it because it feels comfortable. There's something about it. So just find out what those things are. That's what you want to do. Figure that out, and then you can get yourself out. It's really, really hard and messy to face those parts of yourself. I remember hating therapy a little bit. I love therapy, but I'm just saying at the time I hated it. Can they only be abusive 25% of the time and still be an abuser? Can they change without help? 2-part question. I always find it interesting because I did this too, where I would assign percentages to like how often he was abusive. There's no percentage of time that you should be abused, so we need to get that to 0. 25% is unacceptable, but abusers are abusive, and they are not necessarily abusive all the time. But I would always say that the abuse, the cycle, the positive reinforcement mixed with abuse, that's what creates the trauma bond. If the positive is more or feels more, it becomes like, so are you okay with 25%? I assume no. That's why you're here. That's why you're asking. But yeah, abuse is abuse. I don't care if you're abusive 5% of the time. You should be abusive 0% of the time. It shouldn't be a challenge, And that's why, can they change without help? Absolutely not. Unequivocally, every dollar in my bank account, the lives of my children, no. They will not change without help. Now, will they change with help? Also, pretty close to no. To the point where it's almost not worth talking about the percentage, which there aren't studies on, but of abusers that change. Narcissists don't change and become not narcissists anymore, but it doesn't matter if they're a narcissist or not. Abusers need to not be in relationships because they're not functional in relationships. You know, you have to look at the root. Why are they abusive? And actually, I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth right now, because I also say, for some reason, abuse victims are the only victims in the world that are asked to understand why they were abused. I don't say that to use it to show them empathy or to use that to understand and stay and try to help them. Just understand so that you can come to the conclusion that they will never change. They are rooted in power and control, and male abusers in particular are misogynists. They believe in very traditional gender roles. And even if you like some gender roles or all the gender roles, the point is abusers really subscribe to that lifestyle because they want you like barefoot in the kitchen so that they can maintain power and control. Abusers want power and control. So if you look at, will they change? Will they ever let go of wanting that? I've never seen it. I've never heard of it. And I've had people be like, yeah, I've heard my friend. No, no one is an abuser and then just becomes not an abuser like through a couple weeks of therapy. That's not a thing. But they are still an abuser. So have to face him in court and have a protection order against him. Been there, done that. Horrible. I sympathize. I really do. My ex was abusing me and I became the abuser. I would say no. So that wasn't worded as a question. It was a statement, but no, you're not the abuser. I'm trying to lean away from this phrase, but it's reactive abuse, right? If you put someone in a situation where they are being abused, you're going to react to that. And when we call it reactive abuse, I'm like, so how is it abusive to freak out that you're being abused? It is a reaction, not reactive abuse. It's a reaction. It's a bad reaction, but what the hell is a good reaction to being abused other than leaving? What is the reaction you're supposed to have? It doesn't make sense. It's not abusive, but they do make you second guess yourself. Catherine, you said this, right? They make you second guess yourself. And then you're like, am I the narcissist? We've all wondered that. And I used to say, if you think you're the narcissist, you're definitely not. I don't know if it's that easy. The reality is it's not that easy because how do you explain mental illness and raw motivations? They thought they were narcissists and they are one. But it's not really about that. The issue is that they convince you that you are the problem. Narcissist, problem, abuser, whatever, but that you are causing it. And they're very good at convincing you of that. But ask yourself this question when you're questioning it. What is your intention? Not what does someone else think your intention is. What do you think your intention is? Your intention is specifically to create communication and a better relationship because you feel like you're losing your mind. Their intention is to control you. I know they convince you that you're controlling, but they say things like, I'm not allowed to just come home whenever I want and cheat. You're so controlling. It doesn't make sense. And you know that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? I'm going to read what Nate wrote. For perspective from a former abusive husband in couples therapy, the counselor was in literal, where's the rest, Nate? In literal awe of the progress I was making. She said, almost 100% of the time, this does not happen. Yep. So true. And I think that's important to recognize that it is so incredibly rare. Can you consider someone an abuser if you've been with them for 9 years and physically hurt you 4 times? Yes, I would consider it after the first one. I would get to the point where I just wanted to, when I was having my reactive abuse. Yeah. Abuse is abuse. We should ask ourselves what wounds we need to heal to control our reactions. Yeah. And that's the point. They want you to not control your reactions. They want you to have reactions and they drive you to the reactions so that they can feed the narrative that you're the abuser. So that's the point of driving you to the point of losing your mind. That's the intention. That's the purpose of it. When you're talking about healing, and actually, Lady J, you said, how can you contact me? In my bio, there's a link in my profile. Just click on the link and then click Coaching with Lisa. But But on the subject of healing and how you break the trauma bond, and even, if you are like, I don't know if I'm trauma bonded, or I don't know, maybe I've broken it, I'm not sure, or I'm out of the relationship, or you're in the relationship, doesn't matter, but you're at that, like, I might go back, or you're in it and you're like, I don't think I can leave. I have a trauma bond recovery course. It's a 12-week course. It's self-guided. It's not heavy in the sense of it's going to take up a ton of your time. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours a week for 12 weeks. And it teaches you every single thing you need to know in how to get yourself out of these relationships emotionally. How do you break the trauma bond? How do you not want your abuser anymore? Even if you're at that stage and you're like, I don't know if I even want to leave. I'm not sure. How bad is it? The trauma bond recovery course is going to teach you if you're being abused. It's going to teach you what a trauma bond is, the science behind it, why it's so hard, all about cognitive dissonance, how to heal yourself on the inside, how to build a support system, how to pick yourself up and move on. It's only $59. And I made it really cost effective because we're all being financially abused. I keep hearing people say I should up the price. And I'm like, I've considered it a couple of times. I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't. It was hard for me to find $59 back then. My ex was very controlling, but was it his insecurity or abuse? So here's my question back to you. Who cares? Why are you trying to understand why you're being abused? Because you love him, because the some is good. Some is bad and some is good. Consider the good exists to facilitate the bad. No abuser is just abuser 24/7. 24/7. It might be mostly abuse. It might even be not mostly abuse. It's, that's not the measuring stick. But if they're at all abusive, they're an abuser at all. So it doesn't matter how often, how frequently, or like, but it was only controlling, or if he was controlling me out of insecurity, his reason for abusing you is irrelevant. He's abusing you. He's controlling you for control. Because he's insecure, maybe, but doubtful. It's usually because they like that, and then it comes off as insecurity. Insecure people are dangerous. Stay away from insecure people. Someone wrote they drive you to insanity. God, that's true. My ex-narc pushed me with his chest and said that was not abuse. It's actually very clearly abuse, and it is very specifically physical abuse, not just like emotional abuse or like he didn't hit you. And I love that, right? I didn't hit you. I just threw you to the ground. I didn't hit you. I just slammed you up against a wall. Mine said I did not beat you. I just threw you up a staircase and slammed your head into the sink 30 times. Right. Not abusive at all. Sure, bud. These guys are crazy. Kylie, I wanted to let you know how much your videos have helped me understand. Thank you. It's why I do it. It is why I do it. Wanting to leave and having no money. I'll admit that's not entirely my wheelhouse, but I will say this. People say like, oh, you should leave, and you feel all this pressure to leave and you have no money. So you're like, how the fuck am I supposed to leave with no money? There are ways to like siphon money out, which it's such a unique thing, and find ways to get money. But the truth of the matter is it's still hard. And like, what are you scraping together? $20 here, $40 here. It's going to take you a long time, but maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe it is for you, the long-term exit strategy of like, it's going to take me 2 years to leave, but I'm fucking leaving. So in the meantime, learn how and stay diligent with your goals. Don't get overwhelmed with I'm never going to be able to leave. We are all able to leave. It's just a matter of how hard it is. And it is harder for others for emotional reasons or more like environmental reasons, like money and jobs. And I really get that. It's not easy. It's never easy. Never. I'm just saying sometimes it's easier than others. And it's never good to compare anyways. Never. It is hard. Someone's asking for examples of emotional abuse. I find that go by a feeling. I mean, there's actions, obviously, I can describe, but if it's a feeling of you just being sad all the time, or you like are just miserable and you feel broken, you feel devalued, you feel unloved, you feel like they're constantly telling you what you're doing wrong, you feel like you're blaming yourself, you feel guilty, you feel confused, that's a sign of being emotional abuse, of being emotionally abused. It's very, very hard. How do you move on after the abuser when you have a child with them? Part of that makes it harder because you have to see them, so you can't just like cut them out and necessarily go no contact, although I am living proof you can be no contact. But it's harder because more often than not you need to see them, so it actually takes a lot more strength, and it can be harder because you're still seeing them. But ultimately you have to disassociate a little bit. Like, that's not, you have to pull the two apart and stretch your brain a little bit, but know that it gets better, and that when you get over that, it will be beautiful. It will be the most beautiful thing once you start to see them for who they are, and then you learn how to co-parent, which is impossible. So what I mean by that is parallel parent, but learn how to let go. Figure out all the things that you find hard. Write down all the struggles that you have, and then work on tackling the list of things that are making it hard for you. And if you need help, that's where licensed therapy comes into play. That's where coaching with me or any of the other creators on this app that also do that also coach people out of these relationships. My specialty is coaching people out of trauma bonds. And it's all the emotional reasons that we stay. That's my wheelhouse. So I joke that I smash trauma bonds. But the truth is, I mean, I wish that I could just take a hammer and smash them all, but it takes effort and a lot of work to get yourself out and to break the trauma bond, but you can do that. And breaking the trauma bond is the most amazing feeling when all of a sudden you're like, I don't care anymore. This is amazing. It's the best thing in the world. Not caring is incredible. Yeah, somebody asked this. Are you afraid to express yourself and your needs? It's a good indicator. Do you filter all of your interactions? Like, before you speak, are you like, are you walking on eggshells? Do you always feel cautious? Are you always like, if I do this, what are they going to do? Are they going to, you're being abused. That's not a normal reaction in a relationship. That's a bad feeling. Yeah. Coming across your video about covert narcissists is the only reason why I figured my husband out. Yeah, facts. I came across mental illnesses videos years ago, and I was like, oh my God, that's my partner. Yeah, when I found out about narcs and narc abuse, it was the last piece of the puzzle of my life that fell into place. I totally agree with that. I'm doing my best to leave my narcissistic husband. Yes. Good job. It's the hardest thing that you'll ever do, but it is the best thing you'll ever do. I feel like I'm living proof that you can leave, and you can leave with kids, and you can build a better life. And I say this, more on lives than I would on a video, but I really am happy in my life, like really, truly happy. It's not like a marketing thing. I'm not trying to sell you my course and my books and like, I'm really happy, but I'm really a mess. I'm really happy. I have amazing friends, and I lost friends, but I have amazing friends, and I have an amazing partner that took time to work on, like, I needed to work on me and who I am and what kind of man that I want and deserve. And I'm in an amazing relationship with great friends, and I'm happy, and I'm genuinely living my best life. And it's because I got away from my abuser. And so it inspired me to teach others. And that's what started my coaching practice. That's what made me do this. And my screen name, Stronger Than Before, albeit a fluke that I just was like, stronger than before. And then it turned into a business. But I am stronger than before. And none of us asked to be stronger. Do you know what I mean? I hate that whole like, well, at least you're stronger. Kind of fuck you, because I didn't want to be stronger. But here we are. I am stronger than before, and I will never be that person again. There's a bit of grief that comes with that, but ultimately the vulnerable parts of me that needed to be worked on got worked on, so I am stronger, and it won't happen to me again because of that. If I found myself dating an abuser, which I'm in a relationship, so I wouldn't be dating, but I wouldn't continue dating the person, but the old me would have. The old me would have been like, well, maybe he just said that because, but now like, no second chances, one red flag, one major red flag anyway, and I would be, bye. Do I think that sexual coercion is enough to leave your partner? If I could scream yes into my phone right now, yes, it's enough of a reason. Absolutely. Sexual coercion is abuse, and particularly if it doesn't stop. I think it's a complicated topic, very complicated topic. When I talk about it, I get the most hate on my page. But of course, I understand why, because when I talk about sexual coercion, men feel that I'm opening them up to a life of no sex, because the only way that coercive men can get sex, the only way they know how to get sex is to coerce. So when I call that out as rape, which is what it is, they get upset. And then I get called names by men, but I eat that for breakfast. So it doesn't really matter to me anymore, but sexual coercion is enough. It's very traumatizing. And for anyone who's being sexually coerced, I do talk about it on my page, but Mending Me, Nat is her name, but Mending Me is the best page to follow for that, for anything to do with like, is this sexual abuse? Or like, why don't I want to have sex with my husband? That's weird. You know, he's not nice to me all the time, but why, you know, and that was me. Like, I know he's not nice to me all the time, but that can't be the reason that I don't want to have sex with my partner all the time. It doesn't make sense. Any tips for co-parenting? He makes delusional accusations and makes my child believe these delusions. So the first part I was about to say, who cares, right? Like, he makes delusional accusations, doesn't matter. If that pertains to anything other than your child is absorbing it, it doesn't matter, ignore it. But as you're saying, it's making your child believe it. The best question that I find that you can ask your child is, does that sound true? Often they say no. But sounds like you would say yes to that, right? So if the child says, yeah, it does sound true, what daddy just said, what makes it sound true? Can you give me an example of something that you've seen that makes you think that's true other than what daddy said? I would ask questions, not daddy's a liar. Why would daddy say that? Don't even say anything negative. It's just, it's probing questions, and you lead them to draw the correct and truthful conclusion. It takes practice to do that, and it takes time, because you don't just do it once and the kid suddenly believes you. And it's constant. But what you want to do is, just as an example, I can't even think of one because I'm not experiencing this specifically, but like, daddy says you always, whatever the thing is, if you don't actually do that thing, your child will see. So you would say, like, give me an example. They don't have one. So like, baby, if you don't have an example of when mommy does that, then could that possibly not be true? Maybe that's daddy's perception. And then you can talk about people have different beliefs, and some are true and some are not true, and that it's not nice. It's not nice when daddy says that, is it? How does that make you feel when daddy says that about mommy? And you make it about how the child feels, not like, your dad's a dick, which he is. I want to give out copies of Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft by Candy. So let me tell you something. Me too. That book is amazing. I could not scream louder about how great Why Does He Do That is, but he offers that book free all over the internet. Free PDF copies. And if you guys don't know this, I have it in my bio. So if you click the link and just scroll down, there's a free PDF copy of Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft. It was life-changing. That book, I'll tell you the 3 things that changed my life, changed my trauma bond. My therapist, mental illness, and Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft. Those are the 3 things that changed my fucking life. Fast forward, what changed my custody situation was my divorce coach, Family Court Corner. On this app, she is family.court.corner. If you have kids and you're not following Family Court Corner, get over there and follow her, because she is incredible. The most incredible person. The idea of wanting a person that is ride or die, is that a red flag? Ride or die is the most toxic, destructive piece of shit phrase I have ever heard in my life, and it makes me want to punch a wall. So my ex was constantly like, ride or die, blah, blah, blah. And even when we broke up, he was like, oh, I thought she was my ride or die. Fuck off, ride or die. Fuck all the way off. Absolutely not. Ride or die. Why must I die? I don't understand it. Blind loyalty. That's what that is. Fundamentally, ride or die is blind loyalty. I will give no one blind loyalty. Absolutely not. How to trust again? Short answer is trust yourself. Don't worry about trusting other people. But start with you. I'm actually hosting, and give me like a week. I haven't launched it yet, but I am hosting a webinar on dating again, trusting again, finding love again after you have been fucking shattered by a toxic or abusive relationship. And I have dating coaches, therapists, body image expert, narc abuse recovery coach, not me, someone else. Roller Coaster of Love is her name. So I have these people together who are going to be talking about how you do that rebuild, how you trust again, how you get over the triggers, how you manage and cope with the triggers of dating again. I'm really excited to do that. Really, really excited to have that webinar. Sorry, there's so many messages. I'm trying really hard to keep up. the love me unconditionally. Oh, so you want me to disregard my boundaries? Yeah, like that ride or die. Like it just, whoa, it sets me off. I can't stand ride or die. It's Nobody should ask you for that. You should not ask anyone for that, and they should not ask you for that. There is no ride or die. Go away. I'm not ride or dying for any single person. I am not blindly loyal. I do not believe in unconditional love, and I do not believe in soulmates. There's a handful of people out there that you would be happy with, that you would be in love with, that you would be very content with. I don't really subscribe to soulmates. You have like a physical reaction to the word soulmate, in fact, or like meant to be, any of that stuff. But unconditional love, no, my love comes with conditions. Not being abused is my primary condition, which is the bare minimum, by the way. But that is my condition of love, mutual respect, not being abused. I have conditions. There's no such thing as unconditional love. Maybe your children. I shouldn't say maybe. Your children would be the exception. Children, not anything else. And even then, your children turn out to be a murderer, you would still love them. You just might not want them in your life. But you would still love them, I imagine. But yeah, love after abuse. That is what my webinar will be. And in fact, let me just give Nia a little plug again. So if you're not following How to Love a Battered Woman, please follow her. She's incredible. But she actually has journals. And Nia, I'm sorry, I'm not in my office, so that's like in a totally different room. But she has a really beautiful journal. And it's How to Love a Battered Woman. And it is a way for you to teach your partner how to do that. So if you go to How to Love a Battered Woman, either her website or her TikTok page, and click the link in her bio, you can get those journals too. And it teaches you how to teach others. That would actually be really great. I'm going to use your journals for my upcoming webinar, babe. Would an affair be a form of reactive abuse? I've never heard it worded that way. So I have had a lot of clients who have cheated or had affairs. I don't know. Yeah, I guess, you know what? I could say, I always, listen, like cheating is wrong. So like, please don't think I'm like, yeah, cheat on him. No big deal. You shouldn't cheat, whether it's on your abuser or whomever, but don't cheat, but it happens. And sometimes the affair is what gets you out, and you start to realize, so like, I'm not condoning the affair, but hear me out. You're doing it because you're in an abusive relationship, and it's easy to say, well, don't cheat, just leave. But if you're in a trauma bond or you're unable to leave, whether it's emotionally, financially, whatever, I could see how it happens. So it's just giving context to why it happens. But I could see how that would be classified as reactive abuse. I definitely would. Miss Ladybug, email me, lisa@strongerthanbefore.ca. Yeah, I'm so glad you gave me the knowledge I needed to get out. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Actually, Nia, if you're still here, I would love to know about unconditional love with children. Not that you have children, but that you are the child of crazy people. I'm sorry, girl. But anyways, again, going back to How to Love a Battered Woman, just go to her page, please. Follow her, check out her journals about learning about how to love me journals. That's what they're called. Oh, and you just wrote that in the comments. You're the best. How to Love a Battered Woman. I absolutely love it. And look at that. All these people just shouting out your thing. Yeah, Nia, so the webinar that I'm talking about, the dating after abuse, and it'll be launched in a week, and then you'll see it all over my page. But it's going to be January 25th. So I'm excited for that. I think that that's going to be a really, really good one and a really important one. And I think this whole, I'm swearing off men, they're all shit. Not all men are shit. I hate that. It's not all men. It's not. I get called a misandrist when I say that, but yeah, it is what it is. Oh, yeah, Nia, jump on. Hold on. I don't know how to do that. Nia, if you know how to do that, please, get on here somehow. Please. If you put a request in, I will answer it. I will say yes. But so dating after abuse, we swear off the other sex, right? We're like, fuck men or women, whatever. But I hate them all. I'm not doing this anymore. I never go live. I'm so glad you're here.
I haven't gone live in ages. And yeah, but
It's funny. I'm leaving my house in half an hour to go pick up Mental Healness from the airport.
oh yeah, because the event is this weekend, right?
Yeah, our event in Toronto is on Saturday, which is pretty much sold out at this point. There's a couple tickets left for the reception, but it's
That's so
exciting. Yeah, it's very exciting.
yay. I
Um,
can't wait until we can do it again. I can't wait till I can be there again.
I
That literally
know.
changed my life. Like I felt so fulfilled.
Well, you gave the most amazing speech. Like, I'm sorry, but like people, if you weren't here in this whole life, you've got to go to Nia's page and look at the video where she is sitting on a panel and she
It,
is
it's
talking
pinned at
about
my page. I pinned it.
perfect, perfect. It's at the top, even better. I love that. I love that. And I don't know if you have one of your books handy. Do you have them around you?
I can show the cover. I don't have any ones made right now, but I
Okay,
can.
show the cover. Yeah, just show the cover. So she's got these great journals about how to love a battered woman, obviously, right? So that's the cover page. But you go to her page, click the link in her profile, and you can get these. But these are, well, here, you talk about your journals, please.
So basically, I created a journal because I had this journal. This is the actual journal that I had when I was dating my ex. And I literally Googled so many things. And I was like, I need to talk about how to make this easier and like how to teach you how to love me. And I just was doing all of these things for such an unhealthy person. But then I was like, I'm going to turn that into an advantage for me. And so I actually created a journal that I hand make. And it's the How to Love Me journal. And it starts with like a letter to your love, which is really funny because this was the letter of at the cover page of this, just to explain like what the intent of the journal was, what the hopes were, who I am, like what I really wanted, and like this wasn't like an attack on him. And then after that, I did like a love roadmap, and that explained like why I do things a certain way and what can help me, and like conversations. And so I kind of just turned that into an actual journal where if you don't know what your love language is, it gives you the link to figure out what your love language is, and then once you figure out your love language, you can discuss like your preferred method of communication. What are some of the traumas that you've endured? What are some of the ways you preferred to be spoken to and loved? And then I have 4 different prompts that kind of give you the ability to explore yourself deeper and have real honest conversations with yourself about your experiences and what you've experienced in relationships. And you don't have to have write this in like future tense of like what you want your future partner to be, while still exploring and learning how to love yourself and learning all the things that you love, the things that you enjoy, and the way that it is that you need to be loved. And then there's a section for just individual journaling and journaling and there's a portion that's intended for you to have a space where you can journal to your partner. Like you can leave notes, you can write stuff if you're too afraid like me, I was very afraid to say a lot of things out loud, so it was easier for me to write them down and give them the opportunity to read them. And then like you see the slits and stuff, so like when you run out of pages you can get more pages. You can just take them out. So yeah.
I loved mine, and I actually used it, even though, I mean, to a degree, I was like, I never say healed, but like, for much further along in my healing. But I thought it was a really helpful way to kind of map out like how to explain to other people how you work and how your trauma has affected you.
Yeah, and I think that because it's such a scary conversation, especially when you come from abusive relationships, and it's a scary conversation, or you don't know how to have that conversation. I think that's where the line, it just gives you the ability to, whether you want to share this journal with your significant other or the person in the future or whatever, or you just want it for yourself, but it's like you're writing to them to help you release and get through some of those things that you've experienced, or and really just like get to the root of who you are and what you want, instead of that people pleaser in you it helps you, it just like helps you identify.
Hmm. Yeah, and once you, that's something huge to really unpack because before, I think before you logged on and maybe when you were there, we were talking about
Unconditional.
healing
Yeah.
and well, healing and unconditional is looking into yourself, your people pleasing tendencies, how you feel love, how you express love, how
Yeah.
you have done it, and how you should do it. Like, what's a healthier way, right? Um,
And then like when you were talking about coercive sex and stuff like that, I had this part of my journal where it was just like, how do we do that? And I put like, one, communication is key, explaining what that meant, and then two, it was like great guidelines for sex. um and then like scrolling down, and then it says three, find intimacy in ways other than sex. um and then just with like communication, just talking about like gratitude, and like I can't wait to release this because I'm actually going to put, like, I have a book coming out called Letters to You, and it's basically like any letter I'd ever written to anybody that I was in a relationship with or had a relationship with, like my parents and stuff, or even if I need to write that now. But I will have a whole section of the book that discusses the Love Me journal, and then everything that's in this journal will be in that book.
mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Somebody in my comment section just wrote, define what it means to you to love yourself. I just wrote that down. She loved what you said.
Oh,
I
yay.
love that. That's awesome. I love having an impact. You know, we're gonna do this. Let's do it. Let's heal the world and help
Yeah. No, I think
men
it's,
and women, but help people leave these shit ass relationships that are just awful.
yeah,
These
no.
relationships break you.
They do break you, they change you, they sway your opinion, they definitely give you put blinders on you. Especially like for me when I was with my ex. Um I was trying to talk to the person that my father is currently married to, and she would gaslight me while he would gaslight me. So it's like they both were gaslighting me, which is why I stayed in the relationship longer, because I truly was like believing that it was my fault, that I wasn't doing what was right. Um,
Hmm.
so it's just like one of those really crazy things where, you know, but yeah, it definitely changes you. It definitely it makes things a lot more difficult than they actually need to be, should be, or have to be. But once you are able to discover who you are outside of that, like, once you're able to get your footing back, once you're able to be put yourself in the position to stand your ground, hold your boundaries, it changes your whole entire perspective in life. Because once you're able to figure out how to stand firm, stand tall, and set your boundaries, that doesn't just affect your doesn't just affect your romantic relationships. That helps you set boundaries and have those tools for every type of relationship that you have in your life. It's so.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question because I have two questions here that are similar. How can
Mhm.
I make sure I don't let him back again? And then someone else said, I left twice and still came back and I regret it every day. What's your tip on like how can I make sure that I don't let him back again?
So I think I can probably answer both of those things at the same time. One, if you do let him back, do not, it's fine that you feel guilty and you feel upset about it, but be gentle with yourself, because I say this every time. On average, it takes someone 7 times to leave these type of relationships. So
Hmm.
you have to be gentle on yourself in realizing that these relationships are not easy to get out of. They're very hard to get out of. The best way to set boundaries with these type of people, if you don't have kids with them, is completely remove them off of everything that you have. Unfollow them, block any page you think could be them, block them, just completely do not give them ability to have access to you. You are always able to control who has access to your life. And I said this when we were in Austin. You are the executive producer in your life. You can cut anybody out of the script in your life at any time if you want to, if you are in a safe position to do so. Um, but in order to not like not let them come back is to remember how you felt when you were with them. That pain, that agony, that anxiety was very, very real while you were with them. And that's absolutely who they are, regardless of what they showed you in the love bombing stage, what they show you in the hoovering stage. They're always going to go back to their factory setting. They're always going to go back to their default settings. That is exactly who they are, and how you felt during that. You should remind yourself that you never want to feel like that again.
Yeah. Write it down even, like write down how you felt. It helps it. That's why we say like write it down and journal, because you write down how fucking miserable you are for months and years on end. You can reread those. Never let them read it, right? But you can reread that. Or at the very least, if you haven't journaled, just write down like the top 10 things they've done that are so horrible and hurtful. And remember how those things that they did made you feel. Because what do we always say, right? People remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
That's the real memory. Someone asked, because you said if you don't have kids, someone said, well, what if you do have kids? Nia does not have kids. I have kids. And quite frankly, same. Like, block them on everything. Don't talk to them. Stay the fuck away from them. I have never understood, and I'm not a lawyer, so let me just say that. Listen to your lawyer. But no, I will not talk to my abuser. Get fucked. No. I don't know. That's... I know lawyers are like, well, you need, fuck you. No.
That's what she said.
That's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Just no. Now,
said,
I know that you, in some cases, truly have no choice. Like, I really understand that. But in those circumstances where you really have no choice, because the alternative, people say, like, how do you do that? You just don't talk to them. And if there is a custody agreement in place, then it's set. Pickups, drops off, exchanges, when they can call, when they can see. So it's done. So what are you talking about? You don't need to talk about anything. And when you do need to talk to them about some random thing, you probably don't. Like, more often than not, so I previously was no contact for like 2 years, and then court ordered to use a parenting app. So there we go. Most of the messages don't need to be responded to. Most of them are stupid. Most of them are like, I say nothing. I read it and I'm like, There's no question. You're just saying stupid things. I don't have to respond. Your nonsense does not require a response from me. Good luck. Right. Go spew your nonsense somewhere else. It's easy. I don't even care anymore. It's hard when you care, though, I'll admit. Like, doing it when you're in a trauma bond, that's hard. Or even if you're out of the trauma bond, but you just still want to like punch them, you're still angry, that's hard. But I don't have any, people like, what do you think of your ex? I don't.
I will read you a journal entry from a completely different journal. I always had multiple journals, but I'll read you a journal entry that I made February 11th, 2018. I'm free, 3 exclamation points. I'm happy and feel relieved, but I wouldn't be completely honest with myself if I didn't admit that I'm still hurting, question mark. So that was me talking to myself. And then I said, the more the hours go on and the more time goes on, the less pain I feel, because I know 100% I have done everything I could do in this relationship. I had provided more tools and more than I ever have. I tried so many times and spent so many days expressing how I desperately needed and wanted to learn how to communicate with each other. I had a whole entire journal that I dedicated to him with open communication and my feelings with encouraging words and positive vibes. So the more I reassure myself and keep telling myself what I have done to positively move this relationship forward, the better I feel. The more I feel if I have maintained a strong mental health and a very passionate self-worth / love commitment that I have kept with myself. I kept that promise to myself not to run until I was 100% sure that it was what was best for me and that I wasn't making anything up or living in my abusive past. And it turns out that I was feeling exactly what was happening. It happened. It happened to me again. I was in an abusive relationship, and that is what it is called. When someone bullies you, criticizes you, talks down on you, verbally abuses you, calls you out of your name, and victim shames you, it is exactly what the fuck it is. It is abuse.
I love that, girl.
I didn't even know, like, there's so many journals I haven't gone back. I know I had it. So that's why I grabbed it, because I do remember I had one journal entry where I was like, oh, I'm free. And then I know that I open up about it more, but it's reassuring yourself that, You are being gaslit. It's not you, it's them. But that's why Lisa and I say all the time, write it down, put it on paper, talk it out. If you're not in a position to be able to do those things with a ginormous journal, go to Office Depot or whatever they have in Canada and get those little tiny small journals where you can tuck it and hide it in your bra, or put it under your mattress, or you can hide it so that they can't see it. But find ways to write things down, because it's documentation. Any of that can be legally used in the court of law. It's documentation. Date it, time it, put your plate wherever you're at, whatever. It's just documentation, while also allowing you the ability to heal yourself. Journaling is one of the most incredible ways and the most sought out way to heal yourself, because journaling is also a form of meditation, if you guys didn't know that. Someone said, known this guy for a week and he is saying he's in love and want to be exclusive. Is it love bombing? He's a crazy.
Red flag. Where's that? Right? Where's Lee in his little red flags, right?
That's a huge, huge red flag.
Yeah. Stay away. Run. Stay away from these guys. Anybody who does that, and honestly, like, are they a narcissist? Who cares?
No.
They're a creep.
Who cares about that? At the end of the day, it seems very just crazy. Yeah. Someone in my comment section wrote, like, some of them are crazy and you literally can't hide anything from them. I totally get that. And I mean, I'm not joking you. I have heard of women like burying notebooks in their yard, or like keeping it under the spare tire in their trunk. I've heard some crazy shit, but you keep it at a friend's house. I honestly, like, you know, there's also digital things you can do that are online. And I don't just mean like the notes on your phone, because they might go through that too. I mean like a website that you can journal into. The point is also, if journaling is just for whatever specific, unique reason, just absolutely not an option for you, there are other ways to do it. It's just that journaling really is like the best way. It really is. But keeping the documentation, and especially, again, as we're talking about parenting, documenting things is one thing that often we don't do. And we hear, oh, you should document, but we don't really know what that means. And I know for me, I was like, well, these 3-4 crazy things happened. I don't need to document them because they're so fucked, I'm going to remember. But then more happens. And you're like, you know what? Wow, it's like 37 things now. And actually, I can't keep track. Whoops. So I do recommend tracking the things, and use what she said, use what Nia said, write it down, date it, because that is actually testimony that it happened. And women who go into court, men too, but I'm talking about women for a sec, women who go into court and they're like, I was abused. Who cares in court? I care. I'm just saying, in court, their viewpoint is you're getting divorced. So what's your fucking problem? You're good. You're going to be able to move on. So the issue is, how does the abuse affect the children? And instead we go in and they're like, well, he does drugs and that makes him a bad parent. Prove that he does drugs and that it impacts the children, because drug users are entitled to be parents. The reason why I know this is, one, I have my bachelor's in criminal justice. 2, my father was a probation officer for my whole entire life, literally up until like 3 years ago. So I've been around the American criminal justice system for a very long time. So I know I've been on several police ride-alongs. I've been on DV calls. I've been on all of those things, right? And it's one of the ways I was able to realize what documentation needs to happen, and what they're going to ask you, what they're going to look for, and how they're going to try to discredit you and your story. So at the end of the day, as much proof that you can provide to them, do so. Because I've testified in court against the person who raped me, and I was 15 years old. Didn't know anything about this. Didn't know anything about how, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how it would feel. And that moment changed my life, which is why I pursued my degree in criminal justice, because of that, because of the statistics of what it is for rape. 97% of cases in America are either not guilty or dismissed because it comes down to hearsay. If it's not a violently provable violent rape, then it's not going to be found. They're not going to be found guilty. And that's just the situation. But that's what sparked me to get my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. But document, dates, times, what you are wearing, you know, where you were at, get as specific as possible, because like she said, it will be admissible in court. You can use those as testimony. It's used as actual proof. It's used as what's the word I'm looking for? Not proof, but it's technically a credible witness.
Yeah. You are the witness. And the thing is, this is something that I learned it the hard way, is if you go into court and like I'm saying, you're like, I was abused. Were you? Like, you could be lying. You have to prove it. But I would say don't waste your time proving it, because it doesn't matter for custody. It doesn't make any difference for custody. Having said that, if you said, I was abused on October 13th, 2019 at 6 p.m. after this event, the children witnessed it, and this is what happened, that's not the same thing as just like, I was abused. He was abusive, ongoing. He drinks or he does drugs. Okay, did you find acid in your children's bathroom on August 14th, 2019? Sorry, that was me. I did. Did you find crack in your son's car seat? Just me? But on what day and when? So it's not just that they're doing drugs. Drug users are entitled to be parents. Narcissists are entitled to be parents. Right. Abusers are entitled to be parents in the eyes of the law, anyway. So documenting it proves those things. And you may not even realize it if you have all these old journals. You are documenting it. You're already documenting it. So it serves two functions. You're documenting it for the therapy, for the meditation purposes.
Also documenting it for court.
For court. So it's dual purpose. I have two journals, Trauma Bond Recovery Journal. So if you're in the trauma bond, whether you're in or out of the relationship, but if you're in the trauma bond, you feel like, should I leave? Should I stay? Is it abuse? I don't know. What do I do? The Trauma Bond Recovery Journal takes you through all the steps that you need to know. It asks you a question. So it's a guided journal. There's 5 questions per week. It's available on Amazon. Do text messages count as documentation? Yes, they do. The second one is rebuilding after a trauma bond.
Don't delete them. And if you plan on deleting them, screenshot them, save them. But yes, text messages absolutely 100% count.
Yes, they do.
Hey, Lisa, I love you. I got to go, but we got to do sometime soon.
Yeah.
Bye. Love you guys.
Yeah. Bye. I'm staying, guys, but yeah. Bye, Nia. Who can't have these books laying around. So I have PDF versions that you can either print or are fillable, meaning you can actually just use the digital copies. But these are available on Amazon, link in my bio. So the Trauma Bond Recovery Journal, and I'm sorry, it's inverted. I actually don't know how to thing. And then the second one is rebuilding after a trauma bond. So this is, you're out of the relationship, you're out of the trauma bond, and you're like, who the fuck am I? Who am I? I'm lost. So it takes you through sort of more of a self-love. So you go through these processes in the rebuilding one of exploration and recognizing your feelings, embracing your imperfections and showing yourself kindness, and how to reframe and refocus on some of the things that you've been through. Chapter 3 is listening to yourself. That's where you start looking at the core values, your boundaries, self-worth, self-respect. And then lastly, building a future. So it's about visualizing your future, how you handle setbacks, because there will always be setbacks, and building and finalizing your support system. That's the rebuilding. This one, though, is when you're still in. The other host was How to Love a Battered Woman. She's amazing. Nia is her name, but How to Love a Battered Woman on all platforms. Trauma Bond Recovery Journal. This one is also 12 weeks. And I edited my book recently. Sorry, I was looking for the newer copy because the first one didn't have a table of contents. But anyway, that's sort of what they look like. But you go through it and you're learning like how this book has 3 steps, 12 weeks, but 3 steps: education, listening to yourself, and building your future. This is how to get yourself out of the relationship, or if you're out, but how to break the trauma bond, how to get yourself out of wanting the relationship, how to stop pining over the person, how to move on and end the relationship permanently. This also goes really well. It's a great companion to the Trauma Bond Recovery course, which is a 12-week online course, which is also in the link in my bio. And that is affordable. So it's $59, 12 weeks, takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours a week. You can start and stop at your own pace. The books are $19.95 each. Trauma Bond Recovery Journal, Rebuilding After a Trauma Bond, and the PDFs are the same price on my website, so you can check those out. I also have other freebies on my website, like I have the Trauma Bond Recovery Guide, which gives you the 12 steps and a bit of detail about the 12 steps, where the book will actually take you through how to reflect on those things. You can order it using the link in my bio. These are on Amazon. That's where you get the actual paperbacks. You can just search my name or the titles on Amazon, but it is in the link in my bio. That's easier. And then the course is there as well. So just click Trauma Bond Recovery when you get to the link in my bio, and it'll take you to the course, and you can read about the course is much more educational. So it's really teaching you, where the book is more reflective. And that's why they work really well together, because they follow the same 12 weeks. You don't need them together, but I do recommend it because they work really well. There's no overlap in the sense that it's not redundant to buy both. They work really, really well together. So check that out, or coaching if you want something a little bit more one-on-one. I also have validation sessions, which is a 30-minute conversation with me to just be like, is this even abuse? Am I wrong? Am I making this up? What's like, when you're just confused, that's what that's for. I have to basically wait until he hits me again to get the cops to remove him, only option. So I wish I could be like, you're wrong. Sometimes I'll be honest with you, I would love to do like a live with a police officer one day. I really have had problems with police because they are not helpful. But I'll be honest with you, really, truly, I've come to a place where I realize that police officers are here to uphold the law. They can't help you if the law won't allow them to help you. Some police officers are assholes, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, if the law does not allow them to do it, it's not the police's fault. It's the law's fault. So let me tell you, and I'm not making this a political post, and I will tell you I'm Canadian, vote properly. I'm not telling you who to vote for. Vote for the people who are giving a shit about this, the people who will make the laws that protect victims. So just vote. Whatever you need to do, whoever you need to vote for, but vote. Because this is not the police's fault. It is lawmakers. We need to have more women making these laws to protect women. All of these men that are like, oh, family court is so unfair. Y'all made the laws. What? I don't understand. Laws were made by men for men. If you don't like them, maybe you shouldn't have made them that way. And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, family court is also not fair. But here's the thing about family court. It is designed for the average family. It is designed for the average people getting divorced. It is not for us. We are the exception. And that's why it's so fucking hard, because you're the exception. And now you need to know how to prove the exception, how to prove that the person is a danger to your children, emotional or physical. Physical is a little easier to prove, a little. But emotional is very hard, and you often have to let the narcissist, let the abuser fuck up and make mistakes, give them the rope to hang themselves while you stand there with a pen and writing that shit down. There's also a great documentation app. If you go to familycourtcorner.com or family.court.corner on this app, she's an incredible divorce coach, but she made an app, and it actually is the app where you document what's going on, and then you can pull reports and be like, 17 times in the last 6 months, they've involved the children in adult conflict. And then you're showing patterns. Now you're speaking the language of a judge. Now you can show why they are not good for the children and what's been going on. You need to show it in a way that is unemotional, not inflammatory, matter of fact, but it's really hard because we're talking about our kids. So it's very difficult. But Family Court Corner, if you're a parent, Family Court Corner, go to that page, family.court.corner. In the meantime, if you are in a trauma bond, the Trauma Bond Recovery Journal is a 12-week journal to help you reflect and get out. And I'll pick a random page. So week 6, show your self-compassion. That's week 6. Day 1, how can I positively reframe the way I think about myself? What are my own perceived weaknesses that could possibly be strengths? And then it has space to write. Your support system, week 11. What type of support do I need? Financial, emotional, physical, or a combination? What does support look like to me? Do you see how that question is so important? Because people say like, I don't have anyone, I have no support. Or they're like, I have support, I'm good. But my mom, my sister, they're great. Is it the support that you need? Have you ever considered what kind of support you actually need? You know, when you have people around you and you still don't feel supported, it is literally your responsibility to figure out what you need. So I'll just use an example. My sister, God love her, can be a bitch. And I love her to death. I really do. She's my best friend. She's my sister. I'm allowed to call her that. But I know what I can get from her. I can get the tough love that I sometimes need. I can get unconditional love from my sister because she's there for me no matter what. She will do anything for me. My sister previously was able to help me financially, so I could get that from her, and I could get the honest, tough love. But if I needed softness, if I needed comfort, she is unequivocally not the person I would go to. Doesn't mean I love my sister any less. It means she's not for that. So that is not what she is there for. My mother is. And it may not be your mom and your sister. There's my sister. Hi, Vicky. Called you a bitch on the internet. But you know what I mean. My sister is my biggest supporter, but she's not soft and fluffy. She's not, mind you, if I was crying in front of her, don't get me wrong, she wouldn't be rude to me. What I'm saying is that if I just need somebody to be like, I know, that might not be her, but I needed both. You can't expect it from like one person to be everything. My sister supported me financially. She was there for me. She is like half the reason I'm standing here. My mother was the soft person and my friends were soft. And I had one friend in particular that was like, she's a therapist, not my therapist, who really helped me process feelings and emotions and dig into the psychology. That's not my sister. She's more of like, as she said to me the other day, more of like a soc person, not a psych person. But that was her function. So that is in that chapter of building your support system. How can you recognize who the people are in your life, what they give to you, and don't expect them to give you things that it's not natural for them. That's not fair. So that's amazing to be able to recognize that and build that support system so you can get out. But all of the different chapters in this are understanding your trauma bond, living in reality, letting go of the potential of the relationship and the person. Taking it one day at a time is the next one in week 4. Week 5 is own your feelings. Week 6 is show yourself compassion, which is very, very challenging, but very important. Week 7 is grieving the loss. Grieving the loss of your abuser is a very complicated feeling. So how am I truly feeling about the loss of my potential life and the future that I envisioned? Because you're not just grieving the person, right? You're grieving the life. You're grieving the future. You're grieving the past. You're grieving yourself, the pieces of you that are gone. It's tough. So grief is a huge part. Week 8 is acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. So those are the things that you tolerated, that you shouldn't have, that you perceive that you absolutely shouldn't have. So what do you want? What is it? Like, what are the bottom line behaviors for you that you are looking for in a relationship? Because this is where you can really outline like the specific things that they're doing that are abusive, that you are not interested in being around. So that's week 8. Week 9 is your unmet needs. So what are your unmet needs? Because why is this important? You have needs. Everyone has needs. Your needs that are unmet, the narcissist offered you those needs at first. And they looked like they were fulfilling them, but they in fact were not. So what can you do to fulfill your own needs? How can you identify the vulnerabilities in your needs that someone can just swoop in and be like, here they all are, and they're not even real? So learn your unmet needs. It's very, very key. Next is building your future life. What does your life look like? For me, that's a bit of a visualization exercise in like, okay, I want, and you can want anything you want. There is no limit to what you can want and dream of. This is about your aspirations. This is about all of you. So week 10 is building that. Like, what are your professional goals? What are your personal goals? You know, what are your dreams, right? And how can you fulfill those dreams? So that's week 10. Week 11 is building your support system, which we've talked a bit about of, you know, how can you make sure you've got the right people doing the right things and helping you in the ways that you need? Maybe you need to cut some people out of your life. Maybe you don't. And then the last one is self-love and confidence. So that one is, it's 1 week. And the reason that finishes off there, building self-love and confidence, you can't build it in a week. You can't build it in a year, in fairness, in my view. But you start that process of learning what it looks like in the Trauma Bond Recovery Journal. The link is in my bio for the PDF or the paperback on Amazon. But that's what led me to write the second one, which is rebuilding after a trauma bond, because now you really want to dig into the self-love and your sense of self, because having kind of a shattered sense of who you are is what led you to be the kind of person that ended up in a relationship where you were being bulldozed and you allowed it. And I say that not from a place of victim shaming, simply to understand yourself. If you understand yourself, you will be less likely to fall into these relationships if you know what you want, if you're strong in your sense of self. So don't blame yourself, but ask yourself those tough questions. Now, if jerks on the internet are asking you, that's different. That's completely victim shaming, but you can't victim shame yourself. Well, you can, but you shouldn't. Ask yourself to understand. So this one is the self-love. So we've got recognizing your feelings. We've got building your inner self, learning about that, learning about your identity, who you are without that person, because often we enmesh so much, right? And we find ourselves in a codependent relationship. Sorry, I was reading a comment. It's not your fault, it's your responsibility. Yes, it's exactly that. Bang on. Chapter 2 in this one is embracing your imperfections. And there in the rebuilding after a trauma bond, we go into self-kindness, self-esteem, and how to reframe and refocus what has happened to you and work on having a more positive mindset and looking at the ways in which this can be seen in a positive way, not the abuse, but the rebuilding aspect. Hence my screen name, Stronger Than Before. I didn't want to be stronger than before, but it happened. So I can be mad, but it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me at all. I need to learn how to break it, how to move forward, how to learn who I am, who I want to be. Chapter 3 is listening to yourself. Core values and boundaries, self-worth, self-respect, building that. Chapter 4 is building a future. So it goes into more detail than the first one on how to do that. So how to visualize your future, what that means, how to build your dream life in terms of, it's not a vision board per se, but how to build your dream life, how to envision that, and then how to do the steps to build it. How you're going to handle setbacks, because let's not pretend that you don't just write it down and then go build it, poof. There's so many roadblocks. How do you overcome those? What do you do when you kind of take 2 steps forward and then you take 4 steps back? How do you keep going? And then going back into your support system, because you need a different type of support system in the rebuilding phase versus the trauma bond recovery phase. So you can check both of these books out, the Trauma Bond Recovery Journal and the Rebuilding one, on Amazon, which is in the link in my bio, or you can get the PDFs. The PDFs are good if you need digital copies and you can't have books lying around, or if you are in a country that the books aren't available, but it is available in 15 different countries, so it's pretty widespread, but that's that. And then the Trauma Bond Recovery course, which is online fully, that's a 12-week course that you can take that's self-guided. It's only $59. It's in the link in my bio. And that's a great one if you're like, am I being abused? Or I am being abused. You can be in the relationship, out of the relationship. It doesn't matter. That will push you forward into understanding what's happening, why it's happening, why you feel stuck, how to leave. Even if you're out of the relationship and you feel kind of at risk of going back, that's the course and this journal that goes with the course. That'll be what really pushes you forward to get you out. It's very, very educational. It's not fluffy. It's practical. Like, what are the steps? What are the things you need to know? So those are incredibly helpful. So check those out, both in the link in my bio, the Trauma Bond Recovery course, Trauma Bond Recovery Journal, Rebuilding After a Trauma Bond. As well, I have private one-on-one coaching. I also have group coaching, which is coming up in January. And it's a 6-week program. I only take 8 people, so it fills up pretty fast. I only launched it last week. That is something that's so key. And we go through 6 different lessons of how to break it. And the people who've done this course, this group coaching course with me in the past, they get a lot out of it. And we go through the 6 main things like fear, guilt, cognitive dissonance, boundaries, self-worth. These are great things that'll help you move forward, and also in a small environment with other people who are experiencing what you're experiencing. But in the group, I've got people who are married, divorced, in the relationship, out, it doesn't matter. They are working through it together and learning what other people feel, and that you're not alone. And that's a huge part of it, right? So the course is $59 US. The link for the group coaching is also there. If you click on my bio and you click coaching with Lisa, the group coaching is there. So check that out. Or I do one-on-one. I also have validation sessions, which are 30 minutes, just if you're like, am I crazy? Is this abuse? I'm not sure. Maybe they're just toxic. I don't know. It just gives you a bit of clarity. So consider it sort of like a clarity call. And then from there, you can choose to, maybe that's the only call you wanted, or move into a one-on-one coaching relationship, or do the group coaching, or check out the book or the course, whatever. But check out the validation sessions or any coaching. So the link in my bio, you click trauma bond recovery, it'll take you to the course, the books. If you click coaching with Lisa, that'll take you to how to work with me in a group capacity or whatever. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I don't go live too often. I've been going live a lot more lately, but I plan to kind of keep up my going live more. So I will see everyone again. I actually have to go to the airport and pick up Mental Healness because he's in my city. We're hosting an event this weekend with some other creators. So I will leave everyone here, but thanks so much for joining me, and